The first shot wasn't fired by the aliens, it was fired by us. Humanity had been crawling in the ashes too long, waiting for someone else to save us. When we finally struck back, it wasn't with grand fleets or superweapons, it was with one desperate raid that changed everything. Fire in the rock. Captain Aric Voss pressed his back against the jagged wall of the asteroid base as plasma bolts shattered steel overhead. The Dominion had found them. The air smelled of ozone and burning flesh. Every explosion was another reminder that their hidden refuge was dying. He wiped soot from his face, snapped open comms. "Report!" A soldier's voice broke through static. "Levels 1 through 3 are gone, sir. Casualties, too many." Aric clenched his jaw. They had minutes before Dominion war drones breached the last barricades. Retreat wasn't an option. Survival was the only word left. He sprinted down a collapsing corridor, boots hammering against steel, dodging debris. The Dominion weren't just here to destroy them, they were here to erase every trace that humanity still fought. The medbay. He almost kept running. The medbay door was blown open, fire licking at its edges. Then he saw her. A girl, scales torn, wrists shackled, eyes wide with terror. Not human. Dominion-born. Aric froze. She shouldn't have been alive. The Dominion didn't keep prisoners. Unless they had a use. Her lips moved. A rasp of breath, words barely formed. "Help me!" Lieutenant Maracade appeared behind him, rifle raised, urgency in her tone. "Captain, forget her. We're out of time." Aric looked into the girl's eyes. They weren't Dominion eyes. Not the cruel, pitiless gaze of their overlords. These were different, pleading, fighting, alive. He swore under his breath, slung his rifle, and lifted her over his shoulder. "She comes with us." Mara's face hardened. "You'll doom us both." Aric didn't look back. "If we leave her, we're already doomed." Breakout. The command center was a furnace of smoke and screaming alarms. Consoles melted into slag. Drones swarmed, plasma fire ricocheting off steel. "Cut through to the hangar!" Aric barked. He and Mara charged forward, cutting a path in blood and sparks. Every step forward cost another soldier their life. Men and women dropped around them, names Aric had memorized, faces he would never forget. At the hangar doors, a shadow moved through the smoke, a figure larger than any soldier, armor black as obsidian, halberd crackling with void energy. The Dominion warlord. His voice rolled like thunder. "Voss. Humanity was meant to fade in silence. Yet you howl. You fight. You dare." Aric raised his rifle, fired. The bolt splashed uselessly against the warlord's shield. "You should have killed me when you had the chance," Aric growled. The warlord charged. The halberd sweep shattered steel. Aric dodged, but barely. Mara fired a burst into the warlord's back. Sparks flew, but the brute hardly staggered. Aric dove for the dropship hatch, dragging the girl inside. Mara leapt after him, sealing the hatch. "Go!" Aric shouted. The dropship engines roared, tearing them into the void. Behind them, the base erupted in white fire, consumed in silence. In the void. Hours later, silence returned. The dropship drifted in the endless dark, its battered hull groaning. Aric sat across from the girl, her wounds patched, her breath steadying. She stared at him with unblinking, reptilian eyes. "Why?" she whispered. Aric frowned. "Why what? Why save me? I am not your kind." From the cockpit Mara cut in, her voice bitter. "She's Dominion. You should have left her." The girl shook her head weakly. "Not Dominion by choice. Born in chains. My people, fuel for their war machines." Aric leaned closer. His voice was low, steady. "They took everything from us. Our homes. Our skies. Families. They left Earth bleeding and thought we'd die in silence. But we didn't. If they used you, you're not theirs. Not anymore." The girl blinked, confusion flickering into something else. "You risk all, for one?" Aric's jaw tightened. That's what makes us human. They erase. We save. Mara's fist slammed the console. Captain, when they learn we took her, they'll come harder than ever. You've put every survivor at risk. Aric stood, a silhouette against the stars. They saved one of ours once. Long ago. Now we repay the debt. Not for one. For all of them. Cliffhanger. Before the girl could reply, alarm screamed. The dropship shook under sudden turbulence. Mara's face paled. Captain, Dominion interceptors. 2 minutes out. Aric grabbed his rifle, the weight familiar, solid. His voice was iron. 2 minutes is all we need to remind them. Humanity never dies quiet. The void ahead blazed with enemy fire. The void flared alive with pursuit. 2 Dominion interceptors streaked across the stars, their engines burning blue like daggers in the dark. The dropship shuddered under the first barrage, metal screaming as plating warped. Warning lights blazed crimson inside the cramped cabin. Shields down to 40%. Mara's voice cut sharp through the chaos. We can't outrun them. Aric braced against the hull, one hand steadying the wounded alien girl strapped to a cot, the other gripping his rifle though it was useless against fighters. His eyes locked on the flickering holomap. They're not here to disable us, he muttered. They're here to erase us. Mara threw him a bitter look. Then why give them a reason to chase harder by keeping her? The girl stirred, her scales reflecting the red light of alarms. She whispered, almost too soft to hear. They will not stop. Not while I live. Aric's jaw clenched. He wasn't ready to admit it aloud, but he knew she was right. Counter-strike. The dropship bucked as another blast tore across the port side. Aric staggered toward the weapons console. We still have the dorsal cannons? Barely, Mara snapped. Auto-tracking's fried. Then we aim by hand. Mara's eyes widened. Aric, that's suicide. He gave a grim half-smile. Only if we miss. He slammed into the gunner's chair, sweat slicking his palms as he gripped the manual controls. Outside, the interceptors cut across the black like wolves circling wounded prey. Aric exhaled once, steadying himself. Then he fired. The cannon roared, a line of blazing light arcing into the void. The first interceptor twisted, narrowly evading. The second dove under the shot, peeling wide. Again! Mara shouted. Aric tracked fast, pulling the trigger. This time the bolt clipped the wing of the second fighter, sending it spinning. Not destroyed, but crippled. One wolf limped now. The remaining craft surged forward, guns carving molten scars across the dropship's flank. Mara's voice snapped. We won't last another hit. Aric's eyes narrowed, sweat dripping. Then we don't take another. He fired point-blank as the fighter screamed into range. The blast ripped through its cockpit, igniting the vessel in a blossom of blue flame. Silence followed, broken only by the rasp of his own breath. Truth revealed. The crippled interceptor didn't flee. Instead, it steadied itself and transmitted. A voice boomed through the comms, deep, metallic, laced with Dominion contempt. Voss. You carry what is ours. Return her, and I will grant your crew swift death. The girl flinched, scales rippling. She whispered, It is him. Aric frowned. Who? She swallowed, voice trembling but steadying with each word. Korath. Warlord of the Fifth Armada. My master. Mara's knuckles whitened on her console. You brought the personal obsession of a Dominion warlord on our backs? Do you even understand what you've done? Aric stared at the girl. Why you? Why risk this much for one? Her eyes glistened. Because I know their secret. The Dominion's war engines, they do not run on fuel alone. They consume lives. My people are harvested, minds stripped, bodies discarded. I am the last of my kind not yet broken. Her words fell heavy, carving silence in the cabin. Mara shook her head in disbelief. Slaves, as engines? That's worse than slavery, Aric finished. It's extermination with utility. The girl's voice dropped to a whisper. If I live, their secret spreads. If I die, it dies with me. That is why Korath will chase me across stars. Aric's pulse hammered. He thought back to the warlord's promise of a swift death. No mercy. No compromise. This wasn't just vengeance, it was containment. A choice of fire. The crippled interceptor surged forward again, guns charging. Captain? Mara barked. We can finish it, but it'll drain the last of our reserves. After that, we're adrift. Easy prey. Aric looked at the girl. Her eyes were steady now, defiance flickering in their depths. You could give me up, she said softly. Survive another day. It is what logic demands. Aric leaned close, voice like a blade. Logic didn't get us this far. Rage did. Stubbornness. The will to spit in the eye of extinction. He turned to Mara. Drain the reserves. Kill it. Mara hesitated, then slammed the control. The dropship shook as every last drop of power fed into the cannons. Aric pulled the trigger. The beam tore through the void, slicing the Dominion craft clean in two. Its explosion painted the stars in shards of light. Then silence. Total, suffocating silence. The dropship drifted powerless in the dark. Consequence. Aric slumped in the chair, chest heaving. Mara's voice broke the stillness. Congratulations, Captain. We're alive, for now. But we've just painted a target the size of Earth on our backs. Aric looked at the girl, who met his gaze without flinching. For the first time, he saw something beyond fear in her eyes. Hope. You risked everything, she whispered. Why? Aric leaned forward, his voice low but unshakable. Because they thought they broke us. They thought humanity would die crawling. But now they'll know the truth. They took one of ours once, and we came back for all. Now we'll do the same for you. Mara shook her head, muttering. You've doomed us. Aric straightened, shoulders squared against the void pressing in. No, Lieutenant. I've given us purpose. Cliffhanger. The comms crackled again. A chilling signal, not from the destroyed fighters, but from the Dominion fleet itself. A voice familiar, filled with venom. Korath. Voss. You think victory lies in defiance. But every star burns out. Every ember dies. I am coming, and when I arrive, no human will remain to remember your name. The signal cut. The girl whispered. He will not stop. Aric's lips curled into a grim smile. Neither will we. The stars outside burned brighter. Dominion reinforcements were already inbound. The Dominion fleet descended like a storm. Sensor screens lit with signatures, frigates, cruisers, and one colossal battleship that blotted out the stars. Their arrival turned the void into a battlefield before a shot was even fired. The dropship drifted powerless, nothing but a wounded animal waiting for the kill. Mara's voice was tight, her hands dancing over dead consoles. Engines are gone. Weapons dry. We've got nothing but a metal coffin. Aric Voss stood at the viewport, shoulders squared. His reflection was hollow-eyed, but unbroken. Then we make the coffin bite back before it closes. The alien girl, still pale from her wounds, lifted her head. I told you, Korath will not relent. He commands the Fifth Armada. If he crushes you now, humanity will never rise again. Aric turned, voice sharp. Then we don't let him crush us. We make him bleed in front of his own fleet. The choice. The Dominion hails began, demanding surrender, promising annihilation. Koratha's voice boomed through the comms like a war drum. Human. You carry my property. Return her, and I will grant your kind a merciful silence. Aric keyed the transmitter, standing tall though every instinct screamed death was near. Korath. You call her property. We call her survivor. That's the difference between you and us. You take. We protect. And if you want her back, come and rip her from my hands. Static followed. Then Koratha's laughter, low, cruel, endless. You mistake defiance for strength. I will show you the cost of rebellion. The comms cut. Dominion warships moved into formation. Mara grabbed Aric's arm. Captain, listen to yourself. One dropship against an armada? We're finished. Aric's eyes burned with something fiercer than logic. Not finished. Not yet. Remember why we're alive, Mara? Because one spark defies the dark. That's all we need. The plan. They couldn't win conventionally. Aric knew that. But battles weren't just fought with fire, they were fought with symbols. Mara, reroute what power we've got left to comms. I want every survivor cell, every hidden outpost, every ragged ember of humanity to hear this. Mara hesitated, then obeyed. The girl watched him, uncertain. What are you doing? Aric drew his knife, pressing it into the table. Its scarred blade reflected the emergency lights. I'm calling the war what it is. We've been scattered, broken, hiding in holes. But tonight we tell the galaxy the truth. Humanity doesn't surrender. Mara patched through the channels. Static hissed, then cleared. Aric leaned close to the mic, his voice steady, measured. This is Captain Aric Voss of the Free Human Resistance. The Dominion demands silence. We answer with fire. If you're listening, know this. We fight not for one, not for a few, but for all who were taken. For every species chained. For Earth itself. Tonight they come for us. Tomorrow we come for them. The words echoed into the void, carried across hidden frequencies. Even Mara looked at him differently now, less like a doomed man, more like a commander ready to ignite rebellion. The trap. Koratha's battleship advanced, eclipsing the stars. Its weapons powered, energy swelling to obliterate them. Aric whispered, Now. Mara triggered the last reserves of the dropship. Not into shields, not into weapons, but into the auxiliary engines. The ship jolted forward, straight at the Dominion flagship. The girl's eyes widened. You mean to ram them? Aric shook his head. Not ram. Cut their throat. Beneath the dropship's hull, a cargo bay opened, releasing mines scavenged from the asteroid base. Improvised, unstable, but deadly. As the dropship veered aside at the last instant, the cluster of explosives drifted directly into the path of Koratha's battleship. Detonate! Aric roared. The void erupted. A wave of fire and shrapnel tore across the Dominion line. Frigates disintegrated. Cruisers buckled. Even the battleship's shields faltered, its colossal form lurching as alarms rippled across its hull. Mara exhaled, stunned. We actually hurt them. Aric's voice was cold steel. Now they know we can. Face to face. The dropship shuddered as a tractor beam locked on, dragging them toward the crippled battleship. Powerless, they couldn't resist. They'll board us, Mara hissed. Aric gripped his rifle. Good. Saves us the trip. Moments later, Dominion shock troopers stormed aboard, towering figures in black armor, weapons crackling. Aric and Mara unleashed disciplined fire, every shot precise. The girl, weak but defiant, grabbed a fallen trooper's blade and slashed with desperate strength. The firefight raged through the narrow corridors. Smoke filled the air, the stench of scorched flesh overwhelming. Then he came. Korath himself stepped through the breach, massive, armored in obsidian, his halberd humming with void energy. The troopers fell back as their warlord advanced. Voss, he snarled. Your defiance ends here. Aric met his gaze, rifle empty, but hands steady. No, Korath. It begins here. The duel. The halberd swung, a blur of death. Aric dodged barely, feeling the heat of its energy brush his skin. He countered with his knife, sparks flying as steel met alien alloy. Mara fired at Koratha's back, but his shield absorbed it. He spun, striking her down with a brutal backhand. She crashed against the wall, breathless but alive. Aric pressed the attack, every move born of desperation and fury. He wasn't stronger. He wasn't faster. But he was relentless. You thought Earth would die silent, he roared, parrying another blow. But we're louder dead than you are alive! Korath snarled, slamming him to the ground. The halberd rose, ready to end it. Then the girl screamed, a raw, primal sound, and drove her stolen blade into Koratha's side. The warlord staggered, more from shock than pain. Aric seized the moment. He rammed his knife through the cracks in Koratha's armor, straight into the warlord's chest. The giant froze, disbelief etched across his features. His weapon slipped from his grasp. Aric leaned close, whispering through clenched teeth. "Humanity doesn't die quiet." Korath collapsed, his body crashing to the deck like a fallen monument. Resolution. Silence filled the dropship. The surviving Dominion troopers backed away, uncertain without their leader. Aric stood over the corpse, chest heaving. Mara dragged herself upright, blood streaking her temple. "You killed him!" Aric shook his head. "We killed their illusion. He wasn't invincible. None of them are." The girl, trembling but alive, whispered, "Then the galaxy will hear. You didn't just save me, you lit the fire for all enslaved." Aric glanced at Mara, then back at the girl. His voice was hoarse, but resolute. "Then we spread the fire. World by world. Until every chain breaks." Final note. As the dropship drifted among the wreckage, comms channels exploded with hidden voices, resistance cells, enslaved species, scattered human survivors. Aric's broadcast had reached them. One by one they spoke. Defiance. Unity. A spark turning into flame. Mara leaned back, exhaustion etched into her face. "You realize this means total war?" Aric stared at the stars, the fire of purpose burning in his eyes. "It was always total war. Now we've chosen to fight it." The stars ahead no longer looked empty. They looked waiting. The wreckage of Koratha's battleship drifted in silence, its shattered hull casting jagged shadows across the void. For the first time in generations, the Dominion had bled publicly. The galaxy would feel it. Inside the battered dropship, Captain Aric Voss stood over the warlord's lifeless body. The fight had ended, but his pulse still thundered like he was mid-battle. The air reeked of burned circuitry, blood, and smoke. Every breath felt heavy with consequence. Mara leaned against the wall, patching a wound across her temple. Her voice was sharp but weary. "You realize what this means? We just executed a Dominion warlord on his own ship. His fleet will tear this sector apart hunting us." Aric didn't look at her. His gaze was fixed on the stars. "Good. Let them hunt. Every shot they fire at us is proof they can bleed. That's what matters." Aftermath of defiance. The alien girl sat quietly, her scaled skin glistening with sweat, eyes wide as if still processing what had happened. She finally broke the silence. "His death will not break them. The Dominion are 1,000 chains wound together. Cut one, another tightens." Aric crouched down beside her. His voice softened, though his eyes were as sharp as ever. "Maybe. But chains break fastest at their strongest link. Korath was their strongest. The galaxy saw him fall. That's not just a death, it's proof their empire isn't invincible." The girl tilted her head, almost studying him. "You fight not only for humans. You fight for those you have never met." Aric nodded. "Because if they can enslave you, they'll enslave anyone. We don't fight for ourselves anymore, we fight for everyone." Mara muttered under her breath. "And that's how we get killed." But even she didn't sound convinced by her own cynicism. A broken ship, a growing signal. The dropship was crippled. Systems dead, fuel gone, hull barely intact. Yet its calm still flickered with incoming transmissions. Dozens at first. Then hundreds. Static-laced voices bled through, one after another. "This is Cell Gamma, confirming we heard the broadcast. Zarian miners, chained for 20 cycles. We are with you. Outpost survivors from Europa Station. Voss, we thought Earth was alone. We were wrong." Mara stared at the console, her face pale. "They're answering you. Not just humans. Other species. They're pledging themselves." Aric listened in silence, jaw tightening. He felt the weight of it, hope spreading like wildfire across hidden corners of the galaxy. For years, they'd been scattered embers. Now they were sparks converging into flame. The girl spoke again, voice trembling but resolute. You gave them more than defiance. You gave them a rallying cry. Aric finally turned, eyes hard but alive. Then we don't waste it. We build from it. The rift within. But not all were convinced. Mara pushed away from the console, facing Aric directly. Her tone was sharp, her frustration spilling. Do you hear yourself? You've turned a single raid into a galaxy-wide rebellion. Do you know what that means? We'll be hunted to extinction. Every colony, every hiding place, they'll burn for this. Aric stepped closer, voice low but commanding. Extinction was already coming, Mara. We've been hiding, waiting for the blade to fall. At least now we die standing. Or we live standing. Mara's fist tightened, but her voice cracked. I lost my entire family to the Dominion because someone thought defiance mattered more than survival. Don't make me lose what little is left. Silence hung. Even the girl looked down. Aric placed a hand on Mara's shoulder. His voice, for once, carried no steel, only grief. I lost mine too. That's why I fight. Not because I want to, but because I can't stomach another child being born into chains. Not human, not alien. None. Mara's eyes flickered, her anger dissolving into exhaustion. She gave a bitter laugh. Damn you, Captain! You always know how to drag me back in. Dominion retaliation. The comms suddenly flared with Dominion channels. Broken, panicked, furious. Warlord Korath fallen. Restructuring command. Orders, total eradication of Sector 5. The girl's face paled. They will not wait. They will scorch every world near here, human or not, just to erase your victory. Aric's mind raced. Every victory came with a price. He knew what had to be done. Mara broadcast again. Patch it through every resistance frequency. No more hiding. It's time to strike first. Mara frowned. Strike? With what? We've got a corpse of a warlord, a wreck of a ship, and no fleet. Aric's eyes burned. We've got truth. And right now, that's the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. The message. The comms light pulsed. Mara opened the channel reluctantly. Aric leaned forward, voice steady as a blade. This is Captain Aric Voss. Korath is dead. His fleet burns. For years, they told us Dominion warlords could not be touched. Tonight we proved them wrong. You've heard their threats, they will retaliate. But we don't scatter this time. We rise. Humanity will not fight alone. Every world enslaved, every people silenced, you are not powerless. Stand now, and the Dominion falls not in centuries, but in years. He paused, voice dropping to a vow. They saved one human once, long ago, when mercy wasn't in their nature. Tonight we return the debt. Now we return for all of you. The silence after the broadcast was crushing. Then voices erupted across the channel, cheers, war pledges, cries of unity. What had been whispers before became a roar. Mara stared, stunned. You've just declared war on an empire. Aric's eyes gleamed. No. I just reminded the galaxy it was already at war. Now we fight it together. The road ahead. The girl, still clutching the blade she had used to wound Korath, whispered softly, almost reverently. They will name you enemy of the Dominion. Aric smirked faintly. Good. Every war needs one. Mara gave a weary grin. Guess that makes me second in command of the most suicidal rebellion in history. Aric looked between them, then back at the stars. His voice was quiet but unyielding. No. Not suicidal. Necessary. They thought humanity would die in silence. Instead, we've become the voice of the galaxy. And that voice doesn't stop now. The wreckage outside drifted, but already, small signals blinked in, ships moving to their coordinates. Survivors converging. Allies assembling. The spark had caught. The fire was spreading. Aric tightened his grip on the hilt of his knife, staring into the endless dark. This is only the beginning.